Hey guys, welcome back to math class. So yesterday we talked about reasonableness. So finding if an addition or subtraction problem was reasonable. And we would do that by solving the problem and then rounding or front-end estimating our number and either adding or subtracting. Today we're going to do the same thing, but instead of using adding or subtracting or sums and differences, we are going to check the reasonableness of products and quotients. Now remember what a product is. So you see this on the top of your multiplication and division drills. Factor times factor equals product. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. And the same way, dividend divided by divisor equals quotient. So quotient is the answer to a division problem. So products and quotients. Okay, we're going to start off with products. So now make sure you pay attention, because when it says use rounding, you have to round, and that is different than front-end estimating, okay? So we have to make sure we keep those separate. Rounding, you use your jingle, 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. Front-end estimating, you just circle the leading digit and add zeros. You don't round when you say front-end estimating. So make sure we keep those separate. So we're going to start out with rounding. Use rounding to check the reasonableness of products. So here you have Santos bought 2 cartons of single cup coffee pods, each containing 326 coffee pods, and he bought 2 cartons of them. So find the total number of coffee pods in the carton. So they've already done the multiplication problem for you. You do 326 times 2, because there's 2 cartons, and each carton has 326. So you multiply it by 2, and you get the answer of 652. So the total number of coffee pods is 652. That's the first part of the problem. Now, we need to estimate to check that our answer is reasonable. Round 326 to the nearest 100, and then multiply by 2. Now, do not round the answer. What you are rounding are the numbers in the problem, okay? If you round the answer, how is that checking if your answer is reasonable? It's just going to round your answer that you got. That's not checking your answer. You have to redo the problem and round the numbers in the problem. We don't need to round 2 because it's a simple number, so we're just going to round 326, okay? So 326, we're rounding to the nearest 100. So we underline the hundreds place value. There's a 3 in the hundreds place value. And then we circle the digit to the right, which is the 2. Now, remember our jingle. 5 or more, add 1 more, or increase the score. 4 or less, let it rest. 2 is less than 4, so we let it rest at 3. 326 becomes 300. Now we do 300 times 2, just like it is in the problem. We've substituted this 326 for the rounded 300. So 300 times 2 gives you 600. Are 600 and 652 close to each other? Yes. Okay, so we know that our answer of 652 is reasonable. Now when we are checking the reasonableness of products and quotients, they're going to be a little further apart than our sums and differences, because when you're adding and subtracting, you're not dealing with such a big difference, but when you're multiplying something, that's a bigger difference. So your answer is going to be a little bit further apart. The rounded answer and the actual answers might be a little bit further apart than with sums and differences, but these are still pretty close to each other. So our answer is reasonable. Okay, we're going to do another problem together. Okay. So it wants us to find 242 times 4. 242 times 4. So first we have to multiply, so let's do that down here. 242 times 4. Okay, so first we do 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 4, 16. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1, 9. So we get the answer of 968. The answer is 968. Okay, so now we need to estimate, and it told us up here, I don't know if you guys can see, but it says round the 3-digit number to the nearest hundred. So we're going to estimate to check that our answer is reasonable. First thing we need to do is round 242 to the nearest hundred. Underline the 2 because it is in the hundreds place value. Circle the 4, the digit to the right. 4 or less, let it rest. It's a 4, so we let it rest. 242 rounds to 200. What we're saying here is that 242 is closer to 200 than it is to 300. That's what rounding is. We're trying to see which one it's closer to. So now we do the problem again. Now instead of 242 times 4, we're doing 200 times 4. All you need to do, what's 2 times 4? 2 times 4 is 8. Add the zeros. 200 times 4 is 800. So, is your answer reasonable? Yes, because 800 is close to 968. Remember what I said, how products, the answers to multiplication problems, these are going to be a little bit further off because we're dealing with bigger numbers and we're multiplying. But still, they're only about 168 off, so they're close. So we would say, yes, our answer is reasonable. So now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to check the reasonableness of products, but we're going to use front-end estimating now instead of rounding. So here it tells you to find 134 times 5, and it does it for you. So 134 times 5, it tells you is 670. They've solved it for us. Now estimate to check that your answer is reasonable. So use front-end estimation. Front-end estimation, you circle the front number. In 134, the front number is 1. Right? The biggest place value in this number is the hundreds. So you circle the 1, and you add zeros. It becomes 100. Now we do the problem. 100 times 5 is 500. Is 500 close to 670? Yeah, it's about less than 200 apart. 670 is close to 500, so the answer is reasonable. So sometimes you'll actually notice that when you round, you'll get closer to the actual answer than to front-end estimating. That's because front-end estimating, I mean, you're estimating. It's not as exact as rounding, it's just quicker. Okay, so when you round, your number might be closer to the actual answer, but either way, you're still checking if something's reasonable, so both ways work. Okay, let's do a problem together using front-end estimating. Okay, so find 471 times 2, and then estimate to check that your answer is reasonable. So first things first, we have to solve the problem. 471 times 2, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 7 is 14, carry the 1, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, 9. Our answer is 942. Now we need to estimate to check that your answer is reasonable. The 4 is the leading digit. It's the digit in the greatest place value. It leads the number. So we circle the 4 and we add zeros. So it becomes 400. So now we do the problem. 4 times 2 is 800. Is 800 close to 942? Yeah, so it is reasonable because these numbers are close together. All right, and so that's how you check the reasonableness of products.